Hi, everybody. Welcome to Life with Anita. So this is my almost 1 week update. As you guys all know, last week I was physically assaulted by my ex-husband. And it was so traumatic for me because that wasn't the first time that he had assaulted me physically since I had been back around him. And something happened the other night where someone he knew decided to wake me up at 1 o'clock in the morning and tell me to get out the place that I was staying in and basically put me on the streets. Now, my ex-husband was not around at the time, but I'm almost certain that he sent this person who he knows that claims to be his fake dad. This guy showed up with people at the door, told me to get all my stuff out because his name was on something, and he basically was siding with my ex-husband. He didn't believe my ex-husband had hit me, and I had to get out. So the place that I was staying in, because basically my ex-husband and this guy had their name on something, and my ex-husband wouldn't put my name on the place, basically the guy came and was like, get your stuff. You better not touch no other stuff that ain't yours. You need to get out. Now, mind you guys, it's 1:30 in the morning, okay? So I was in the bed sleeping. I hear a loud knock at the door. This guy is telling me that he basically needs me to get my stuff out. He's got these people from the office at the door telling me that he put his name on something along with my ex-husband. So if it wasn't those two, I had to leave. So I had to pack all my things. And basically, I had to go and sleep in my car because, as you guys know, I was going through domestic violence with my ex-husband for quite some time now. And I had ended up losing a lot of things because of that. So fast forward to now, my ex-husband ended up hitting me. I mean, when I tell you the punch that he delivered to my body the last time my ex-husband was around me, which was about almost a week ago, I was in so much pain. I sat in the ER for hours. I left the ER. I was in pain for 2 days after that because my ex-husband hit me as though I was a man. Mind you, all we were doing was having a disagreement, and I never hit my ex-husband. But we were disagreeing, and he just took all his might with his fist and punched me in the stomach so hard, guys, that it felt like I was getting ready to die. It felt like the wind was being knocked out of me. I could barely do anything afterwards. I was in so much pain for days after. So this is just an update of how I'm doing. I'm not in the pain anymore from him punching me. That went away days later. Now I'm just recovering. So I have my good days, I have my bad days. Ever since the last time I've seen my ex-husband after he punched me, I have not seen him after he punched me. I won't disclose anything else besides I haven't seen him after he punched me. But the healing after you're abused, again, is very traumatic because the more you're abused by somebody, the more trauma you suffer, the more and more it happens. And I guess it was just a little much for me, for the person who claimed to be this fake dad of my ex-husband. I guess for him to kind of approach me, and when I was talking about what was happening, he basically was telling me in so many words he was siding with my ex-husband. He didn't believe me. He didn't care. Almost 2 o'clock in the morning, I need to get up and get my stuff and get out, right? So for me, it's how does life work where somebody can just mistreat you like that, right? So because my ex-husband couldn't mistreat me anymore, he sent other people to do it. Because mind you, this man had never came around the whole time that I was dealing in this abusive situation with my ex-husband. The guy never came around and was like, yeah, you got to go, whoop, none of that stuff, right? So it was kind of bizarre that once I did not see my ex-husband anymore after he had physically attacked me almost a week ago. It was kind of astonishing how this guy just jumped in and was like, yeah, now I'm here to defend him. And it was like, well, how can you defend somebody when you weren't there when it happened? And I think it's so uneducated, it's so stupid of people that when somebody goes through domestic violence, unless you were in the room with those two people and you know what happened, you don't have a right to tell somebody that what they're saying is not true. So my issue at this point, and what I have to help people understand, is that my ex-husband don't have no money I want. He don't have no materials I want. There's nothing about him that I want. So when I hear people say, well, I believe him and I don't think he did nothing, you can't say that because you weren't there. And when I'm sitting here suffering and I'm being hit and I'm being choked by this man and I'm being called every name in the book and I'm being recorded and he's making inappropriate videos of me, threatening to send it to my family, and he's putting me in terrible positions and nobody knows what's going on behind closed doors. It's easy for you to defend somebody when they're nice to you. It's very terrible to then speak to me, the person who's the victim, and tell me what you don't believe and tell me how it's two sides to every story. So for me, that was just a disgrace, number one, for a person to tell me, who I know what I went through, I know what I suffered, I know what happened to me, to tell me, oh, well, two sides to every story, so who cares? You know, you just got to go. I think it's just horrible because I feel like us black women, this is what I'll say, us black women are targeted so much. Us black women are treated the worst. Unless we are with a black man who understands how to treat a black woman, or unless we're just with a man in general that understands how to treat a black woman so that we are not always in fight or flight or survival mode, or fearing that we are going to be attacked by our spouse or a man in general and taken advantage of. It's so sad what goes on these days. The black woman is the most unbelieved woman when it comes to people committing crimes against us. And that's a statistic. You can look it up. I'm not making any of this up. When it comes to us black women reporting abuse, reporting attacks, reporting sexual assaults, reporting rapes, we are the least believed because people believe that us black women somehow have it out for men, or we have it out for these men and we're just after something. No. And excuse my language for what I'm about to say. That's bullshit. As a woman who has been a victim of domestic violence repeatedly for years, okay, I have nothing to gain by lying on anybody. I have better things to do in my life than to sit around and lie on a man and say that man hit me and that man never touched me. I don't do things like that. So if I ever stand up for myself, if I ever report that something is happening to me, that is the honest to God truth of what's happening to me. And it hurts when you are truly a victim of abuse and somebody is not believing you. And you have to jump through all these hoops for people to believe you. When they finally do, you have to hope it's not too late. I thank God that at some point people started to believe me about how abusive my ex-husband was. And he would go out into the public and he would portray this good guy. And I would see how he would act around everybody else. He'd be just so nice and sweet. And he'd get behind closed doors with me and like he turns into his villain terrorist, right? And now he wants to terrorize me. And then he's like, hey, but no matter what, you know, you're always going to be here. You know, you're mine. So it doesn't matter. But see, nobody hears those things, right? So when people who think they know him defend him, it's kind of sickening to my stomach because I'm like, well, you weren't there crying. You weren't sitting there when this man was hitting on you. You weren't sitting there fighting for your life because of what he was doing to you. So as I am recovering from abuse again, I just want to say, don't judge a situation that you have not been in. Don't judge something that you did not sit there and watch happen. To all the women who deal with my ex-husband and who have been dealing with him, I don't want to hear your opinions either. because you were not behind those closed doors when that man was choking me and beating on me and punching me and treating me like I was a man, all because he felt like I wasn't acting right, all because he felt like I didn't say what he wanted me to say, or I said something that he felt like wasn't right. I don't care what nobody say. Just because I say something to somebody or we have a disagreement, that does not give a man a right to put his hands on me. And so to all his little henchmen, to all his little flying monkeys who continuously enable his behavior, which is why it's so bad. Unfortunately, because I trauma bonded to my abuser, who happened to be my ex-husband, for so many years, because I felt like I didn't have a way out. And it was like I never could escape him. And it was like even when I did, he still was somewhere looking for me, or he wanted some kind of contact because he couldn't deal with no contact with me. What I will say is I hope that it changes in the world when women report abuse. And it takes me back to the story about Diddy and Cassie. When Cassie was telling everybody that Diddy was physically abusive to her, if they would not have found a tape and released it, she was called a liar for so many years. And it reminded me of my situation, how people just like, no, he's a good guy. He wouldn't do that. He says you're crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm an abused woman that unfortunately stayed with somebody who was abusing me. And even when I left, he would come up with dramatic stories to lure me back, to have me come back to him, knowing that he was lying, just so that he could abuse me again. So until you've walked in my shoes, until you have been behind closed doors with a monster, a man that is good at manipulation, a man who suffers from narcissistic personality disorder, a man who thrives off abusing me, the person he feels like is the one weakest woman he's met because I don't fight back. And then when I do fight back, he does worse to me. When I tell the truth about him, he then attacks me and sends other people to attack me, to try to harm my character, to try to mess up everything I have going in life, to try to mess up my stability. I have a right as a victim of domestic violence to tell my truth. I don't care what my abuser says. And it's so crazy because I remember when I would make my episodes on my podcast about him abusing me and what happened, and I was telling the truth, he would always call me, or if he was by me in my face, he'd get enraged and tell me, how dare you lie and say that? And why are you telling people this? And why are you telling people that? Only a person who's guilty of what you say will begin to get enraged and try to do worse to you because you're telling the truth. And I have never lied on my ex-husband about any time he has hit me. I've never made a false police report about him. I've never said that something happened that did not happen. And so I wish that just in general that the public and people, law enforcement, everybody changes their perspective and understand that us black women, we have it the hardest. Because if that was a woman of another race that would have reported my ex-husband the first time, when I reported him the first time, he would have been in jail. He would have been somewhere suffering consequences. But for 5.5 years, I had to constantly report things that were happening. And if he could convince people that it wasn't, he was a free man. What kind of injustice was that to me, the person who was actually being abused? So I just want to say that domestic violence is not okay. You can get out of it. It is a journey. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. Sometimes I can record an episode and I may be happy, but then a couple hours later, I may have a flashback of him hitting me, or I may have a video on my phone of him cursing me out. And then if I play it or I just scroll past it, it triggers me and it makes me cry. And it hurts because I know that the things that my ex-husband did to me, he shouldn't have done those things. And, I just divorced him in February. And then he came back and rained terror on me after I divorced him. Right? And so that's scary because it's like, why not just leave me alone? And he only leaves me alone after he's rained terror on me and destroyed so much. And he's hurt me and he's traumatized me again and he feel like he broke me down, then that's when he's like, oh, now it's over. I got somebody else I can go be with. So forget you. Now I hate you. Now you're no good. And it's a repetitive behavior that's so scary. But this time, I'm going to stand up for myself and really stand on business. And I'll never go back to my ex-husband because he's not a good guy to me. He never was. And it was only my kindness that kept forgiving him, but not realizing that just because I forgave him, I should not have went back around him. I should not have trusted what he told me. I should not have allowed him to manipulate me to go back around him, knowing that he was so abusive and knowing that his first instinct is always to put his hands on me, to degrade me, to call me names. You know, sometimes in life you have to learn things, and then once you learn that final lesson, you tend to just leave it alone. And I will say that this time, you know, as I said in my other episode, I used to think that my ex-husband was beating on me because of drugs. But then this time, he was sober hitting me. There was no drugs in his system. He was soberly hitting me, degrading me, treating me like trash, no matter how nice I was to him. And this time, it made me look at him very different. Because I used to always say and make excuses for him. I would say, well, you know, I used to be like, well, he was on drugs and it's the drugs that makes him hit me. He don't know what he's doing. I used to be like, he cheat on me because he on drugs, right? But the fact that he still came back around, and when I got back with him, he still was cheating on me with no drugs in his system. He still was hitting on me with no drugs in his system. It made me realize that it's just him. That's how he feels like it's okay to treat me. Because he don't treat nobody else like that. It's only me. So, I just want to say to everybody else who's been a victim of domestic violence, abuse is never okay. And I use my platform on my podcast to tell my truth, to vent, to take you guys through my healing journey. Because there's so many people out there who feel helpless. And when you go through domestic violence, you do feel helpless. Because you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm suffering like this. And I really felt like I was going to have a nervous breakdown if I would have stayed around my ex-husband another day. Because that's how bad the abuse was. Every day it was either mental, verbal, or physical with him. And it's like he was taking so much enjoyment in it that it was so scary. And it was hurtful because I was like, I'm so nice to him, so why is he doing this? But it taught me a lesson this time. And I just hope anybody else who's going through domestic violence, when you get a chance to get out, don't ever go back. I regret so much going back into a situation with my ex-husband. I regret it like no other. Because I know that even though I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt and thought he was going to change and treat me right, his narcissism is so bad that he feels like I'm just his supply to abuse. He can't do that to other women that he engages with because they won't tolerate that. So he always wants me to be around because I'm the only person he feels like he can abuse, get away with it. And as long as he just holler out a lie and say I'm crazy, that nobody believes my truth. And I am going to fight to put an end to that because I have never, as I've stated before, I have never, ever lied on my ex-husband about any abuse that he has subjected me to. I never deserved it. And it's sad that him being a man, he never is accountable. He never admits what he does that he know he doing. And then he'll get behind closed doors with you and be like, hey, I'm sorry though. But then he'll go and tell other people like, oh, that didn't happen. She lying. But then he get behind closed doors and he want to hug me and tell me he's sorry. And this time I can't let that happen again. So I don't believe my ex-husband is sorry for anything he's did to me. I believe he just only is sorry if he gets caught. He's only sorry if it gets told to other people. Other than that, he's not sorry. And that's the most scariest part about this. I loved a man for years that was never sorry for abusing me and hurting me when I did not deserve it. So, thank you guys for tuning into Life with Anita. Today was one of my days where I was kind of up and down and stuff and not really feeling the best. I was okay earlier in the day. Some things triggered me. And as I'm healing and, I just had something happen less than a week ago with him, where I was physically assaulted by him and hurt. It's a journey. And so I'll take you guys through my healing journey as much as I can. But as you can see, it's very emotional. It's still very raw emotions. But abuse is never okay. I don't care how much you think it's small. It's not that bad. Abuse is never okay. If you can get out, stay out. Because I wish I would have. And I would not be doing this episode again. So thank you guys for tuning into Life with Anita. You guys have a great day. And I'll keep you guys updated on how I'm doing, how I'm healing. But here I'm sending peace, love, and light to anybody else who has been through domestic violence. It is truly traumatic. It is very triggering. And don't let anybody tell you how soon you should get over something happening to you. Don't let people tell you that because if they don't believe it happened, that does not mean it didn't happen. If you experienced it and you want to tell your truth, you have every right to do that. I will see you guys next time. Thank you guys for tuning in to Life with Anita. You guys have a beautiful day.